thank you very much for joining us, grade 11 families. We really appreciate you joining our webinar. Lots of people have signed up, which is fantastic, and registered, and we're seeing the numbers rolling in with all of you being here. So thank you very much. I'm just going to start us off really briefly, just to kind of let you know what this webinar is about. We're really just wanting to have a quick touch point with families here, because we've had a chance to go through a lot of this content with the students already, but this time in an assembly. But we're also going to add in some additional thoughts and add in some additional slides in there. So it's not totally irrelevant for students, and also grade 11 students can also benefit from hearing some of the same messages more than once. So basically it's our introduction. This is actually a new thing that we're doing. We usually will start this first introductory session a little bit later on in the quarter, so or the semester. So we're just trying to bring things a little bit sooner to you in the year, so you guys have a chance to start researching and looking into some of the resources that we've started to share with you already as well. So you get a bit more of a chance to start the reflective process, which is what grade 11 is all about. So thanks a lot. Now, for those of you that do not know who we are, my name is Jeremy Forrester. I'm in my 5th year here, and yeah, college counsellor. And I'm going to move on to Mr. Sabanda.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. My name is Beginkot Sibanda. I'm on my 2nd year here as a college counsellor at ACS. And next is Mr. Wickham.
Yeah, I'm Sam Wickham. I've been here. This is now my 3rd year in the college counselling team here at ACS. Good to meet you all. Thank you for joining us.
So over to Mr. Wickham to talk about the idea of fit, which is all important.
Sure. So just to frame our conversations this evening, we thought we would sort of lay out the kind of groundwork and the philosophy that we are working towards here in our college counselling team, and that is this sort of fairly straightforward statement, and I'm sure many of you would agree that this is the most important thing, is finding an institution or career pathway, an academic institution or career pathway that meets the academic, emotional, geographical, social, and financial needs of the student. I think the key point here is that it is the need of the student, and that it is a student-centered process. We'll kind of get onto a little bit more of that in a second. We want to ensure that, you know, a young person is, if choosing an academic pathway, going to university or college, is going to be somewhere that they're going to thrive. We want them to be challenged, yes, but also be successful there. And so kind of pitching academic institutions at different levels to meet them kind of where they're at as they leave school is a really important consideration. And so that the students get to college and be somewhere that they're going to be challenged, but also they're going to be able to do the work and do it successfully. That's really important. We also want the student to be supported emotionally, you know, by advisors and guiding through the kind of university and career exploration pathway. We also want them to be in an environment where they're going to be happy and content, because ultimately that's going to enable them to be successful or more successful as they move through that academic institution or that career pathway. Obviously, geography is a real concern for our families and a consideration. Many of you are tied to one country or another for both kind of financial, but also kind of personal, social living reasons. And so we explore all of those different options. Students will potentially have the whole world in which to look and not too many geographical constraints. Others might be tied to 1 or 2 different countries or an area, the European Union, for example, because of kind of one of the other things on there, the financial aspect to attending university or kind of work permit and study permit related limitations. So there are geographical considerations that we will talk through with your young people, with students and with families, as well as, you know, how far away from where your family are do you want to be traveling? What does the support network look like in that area? So there's definitely geographical considerations that we encourage families and students to consider. Obviously, social aspects as well. We want students to be in a place that they're going to develop socially, develop skills, develop kind of behaviors that's going to support them in later life, you know, in the career environment, in the workforce. We want them to be able to develop certain skills through pursuing interests and having a kind of a vibrant, positive social scene that meets their kind of interests and needs is really, really important. Young people, some people thrive in a busy hustle and bustle urban environment. Other people prefer a kind of more kind of laid back, relaxed, or kind of open campus environment, and the kind of the social aspects that brings. So it's important that we dig into those considerations too. And then this final one is predominantly for the family, but obviously there are financial considerations no matter where our students and families are looking. Some places are more expensive to live. Some places are more expensive to study than others. Many of you will have potential financial considerations through that process. So we want to have open, and we want to encourage open and conversations between students and families about what those financial considerations are. And this is our philosophy. We want to take a holistic approach to finding these opportunities, these pathways, considering all of the different students' needs and interests. In order to do this, there is a kind of a process. If I could have the next slide, please, Mr. Forrester. Apologies for those of you who've seen this before. Those of you who are on the IB session with Mr. Nestling earlier in September will have seen this kind of pathway, but this is kind of where we're working towards in grade 11 and into grade 12. So right now we are semester 1 of grade 12 with our senior students. It is all hands on deck, submitting applications to impending deadlines as we go. But that doesn't mean that grade 11 students can't start the process and can't start having these conversations. And it was wonderful to see on campus the last few weeks, lots of university visits and lots of our grade 11 students really getting engaged, asking meaningful, pointed, specific questions, which was wonderful. Some of those self-reflection pieces that we talked about earlier on around the needs of the individual, those are conversations that can start at home, and those are conversations that we're going to start and expect students to kind of work through independently, a few tasks and processes, more on that to follow over the next couple of months before we begin our one-to-one conversations in January with our grade 11 students. There'll be opportunities for further exploration. There are numerous university fairs. We'll be running some trips to different conferences and exhibitions. There'll be open days and things to attend through February, March, April, June, July, and beyond. But really, we're encouraging young people to do some self-reflection and some consideration of what they're interested in, who they are as an individual, what they want, what they're looking for, have those conversations with family at home, explore some potential destinations and some potential options, digitally, virtually, perhaps, and then begin those one-to-one meetings with at least not a firm idea, but at least a little bit of direction in terms of the where, maybe not the what, but at least the where geography to look, and what options might be available to them, so that we can guide them further in those one-to-one conversations that will stretch from January of grade 11 all the way through to June of grade 12, covering various different things. If we can have the next slide, please. Good. So we kind of touched on this a little earlier around this idea of fit. We really genuinely believe that this process should be student-centered and in the students' best interests. Our jobs as college counsellors and advisors is to be advocates for students. Your jobs as parents, as families, is to support and encourage your student to explore and to sort of reflect on their interests and their aspirations for the future. But the real driver of this process, the person at the center of the process, should be the young person, should be the student. And in order to make this happen, we just wanted to outline some of our responsibilities in grade 11. These responsibilities change in grade 12 as we move into the more sort of the nuts and bolts of the application. But we just wanted to outline some of the roles of the young person, the student, of us as college counsellors, and you as a family over the next few months, and some of the conversations to kickstart at home. So next slide, please. Brilliant. So we always like to say that in this process, this student-centered process, the young person should be the driver of the vehicle, the driver of the car, with the parent as the cheerleader in the passenger seat, and we as counsellors are the GPS. We're the sat nav. We're the ones kind of pointing the direction. The student doesn't have to go down that direction. It doesn't have to take that right turn. but we suggest that if you want to get from A to B, this is the smoothest possible route. We might suggest a number of different routes at the beginning, and the student kind of chooses that route to go down with the parent along, not just for the ride, but to provide advice and provide a little bit of support as well. Not to belabor the metaphor too much, but these are some of the kind of roles that we will have when we work with our grade 11s, and that we expect students to be doing over the course of the next few months. So for us as counsellors, our job is to advise, to guide, to ask powerful questions, to promote, to plant little seeds. What if this? What about that? Have you looked at this option? Have you heard of this course that might fit some of the things that we're having conversations about? We are a guide, we are a resource. We obviously want to support students' well-being. We don't want students to be able to take on too much and not always manage the kind of the vagaries of the kind of search and application process of what life looks like beyond school. We want them to take a sort of balanced approach to balancing their personal activities, their social activities, their schoolwork, their extracurricular stuff, and this process as well. So we will always kind of caution, and if we feel that young people are kind of almost wanting to do too much, we will encourage, and suggest structures and sort of to-do lists in order to put those kind of aspirations into play. But we also want to support that student well-being, because it can be quite overwhelming and quite a stressful time. Obviously, the student's role as the driver is to kind of to take on ownership and responsibility of this process, to think deeply about options, but also about themselves, right? And what they really want and what they're really looking for in the future. We want them to actively research and explore the options that we suggest. Certainly, in our one-to-one meetings, when they will begin, we will give a to-do list and a set sort of number of tasks, and part of that task could be to have a look at this particular course at this institution, and we expect students to go away and actually do that and take ownership of this process. We ask students to keep an open mind. Don't just be fixated on one choice, one option, one pathway, because that might limit their choices later on down the line. That might mean for a maybe less than ideal or a less than successful pathway along the way. So we want students to be open about all of their choices. And obviously, you as parents, as passengers, we want you to kind of encourage that open-mindedness. We want you to be, help with organization. We want you to drive them to open days. We want you to fly them to campus visits if necessary, if that's feasible and realistic. We also, again, like I mentioned earlier, want you to be honest about finances and what is available and what isn't from an early stage, because that helps us suggest options to students as well. And also open about your kind of expectations and your aspirations for your young people, not to put on pressure, but to make sure that, everyone is on the same page, and that, if a young person's aspirations don't necessarily always meet the expectations of the family, for whatever reason, we can kind of work with both parties to find potential compromises and options that might help meet both of those things. So that is kind of an overview of everyone's responsibilities at this process. This will change as we move into grade 12, but we just wanted to put that out there to help you in some of your roles. Mr. Sibanda, I believe this is you. You are on mute.
Okay. All right, thank you. So we are going to move on to talk about what universities look for when they are looking at students' applications. Obviously, the most important part, which is basically a summary of what a student has been doing academically at school, will be the transcripts. So depending on the countries, generally, they expect about 4 years worth of transcripts. So that's starting from grade 9, 10, 11, and 12, or the equivalent year 10, 11, 12, and 13 for the UK schools. So generally what we'll expect is that students will have their ACS transcript. And then for those that joined ACS in grade 10 or 11, will need to send us a transcript from their previous school as well. Some of them might already be on file with the admissions office, but some we might need to reach out to parents and through the students to find those transcripts. The transcript really is the most important part of the application. By and large, it shows the students' actual preparation for taking on university studies, right? For the UK, we might not submit the entire transcript, but we'll submit what are called predicted grades. Predicted grades are evidence-based grades from the teachers of the student that show how the student is currently doing, and therefore estimate how well they are going to do on their final examinations. While for the US and most of Europe, an entire transcript is going to be required. What follows from the transcript, there are few things that they're looking for within the transcript. You find that they will find the GPA. That will be the GPA for college courses like AP or IB, as well as core courses like our high school, honors courses. They'll also be looking at the rigor of the content, right? Students have the opportunity to take different levels of subjects, different subjects, from sciences to the humanities to languages. So the variety and the breadth and the depth of the courses that they're able to take will be put into consideration. And if you look at the table on the other half of our slide, you will notice that there's some research that has been done to look at what are the most important aspects that universities were looking for the first-time freshmen in the fall of 2023. So if you look there, you see that universities really, really value grades. As you can see, all these categories are put in descending order of importance. So high school grades in college prep courses are really, really the most important thing. And you can see that about 76.8% of the universities said they're of considerable importance. And then as you go down, you see that the total high school grades are also important. So it's the college prep courses, that's IB, AP, the higher level courses, and then that followed by our high school, normal US high school diploma courses, which are also still quite important. As you can see, still 74%. So 74 and 76% isn't that big a difference. So all the courses that the students are taking will be put into consideration in that particular application. Once you move on from the transcript, as I said, apart from just the grades, the variety of courses that the student was taking, and also the consideration of the maximum amount of content or the maximum amount of courses that a student is allowed to take will be put into consideration, because universities are trying to make sure that they take the student that have challenged themselves to the highest possible standard available to them, right? Following that, we'll also be looking at the general high school curriculum. So some students here can take the AP courses, some can take IB, and some can take just our normal high school honors courses. All of those are different options for students based on their interests, based on availability, as well as their academic aptitude. All of that is put into consideration. Some parents will ask, what's better, IB or IP or AP? In general, the simple answer is whichever is going to give the student the best grades or going to prepare them best for what they are looking to pursue in the future is the best option or the best opportunity for them. So we will not be encouraging students to take any particular pathway in particular, but rather looking at what preparation do they have from the earlier grades, and as well as what courses they need to take in order to prepare themselves for the university subjects that they may want to study, or the part of the world where they want to study. All of that will be put into consideration more than just a simple choice of which one is better between AP and IP. Following that, there's also a lot more about who the student is as a person, so the character attributes, as well as how they've been able to engage and showcase their interest through different engagements, whether those are in school, outside of school, through internships, through volunteering, as well as knowing what they are looking to engage in terms of the courses that they want to study at university, the more the student can demonstrate that they are aware of what it takes to study, let's say, engineering or English at university, the better their chances of getting into the right course for them, as we will also be focusing on that particular fit, not just the fit for the student, between the student and the course, but also the university in general. Extracurricular activities and community service are also really, really important. So we highly encourage students to engage and get involved as much as possible. We now have an entire department that is looking at service-based learning, as well as interest clubs around the school, that we encourage students to not only participate, but take leadership roles, lead particular projects, and really take the opportunity to engage themselves, to apply themselves into these options that we have that allow them to take their education beyond the classroom. Community service is also important. It can be through the school. It can also be outside with other opportunities over the summer or during school breaks. Work experience can also be particularly important, especially when you are looking at studying medicine. There is a requirement to have some sort of work experience. In general, the work experience is a great opportunity for the student to have an idea of how much interest they have in a particular career. It also helps them decide if that is really the career for them. Instead of waiting until they get to university, this is a great opportunity for them to actually get a hands-on experience that they can, through which they can get a confirmation of their interests. On our end, we also help students getting recommendation letters. Their behavior, as you see, we have learning behaviors in our report cards. Their behavior will be looked at as well through the teacher recommendation letter. Students are expected to ask for references through their teachers. We as counselors also help to offer a recommendation letter that speaks to the general character of the student. This is where your help as parents can also come in handy, because there are some instances where we might need to explain specific circumstances that relate to the student, whether it's the learning support that they are receiving, whether it's other things that may have happened or may be happening in the life of the student, whether that's during exams or that's during application time. All of that becomes really helpful in building a clear and comprehensive view of who the student is. The last one that some universities do take into consideration is what we call demonstrated interest. Demonstrated interest is how a student is able to show their interest in a particular university. So that could be through following the university on their social media, reading emails that come through from the university, visiting the university in person, meeting admissions counselors and asking questions and getting themselves noticed. All of those are ways that the admissions offices are able to tell, if we accept the student, is the student likely to come and study at our university? Has the student looked at our universities and is convinced that this is the right opportunity for them? So as we look at the comprehensive, rigorous manner in which universities will look at the students' application, there are various ways and places in which students can make sure that they strengthen their application from aspects of within the classroom, such as the transcripts, the grades, and also the variety and rigor of the courses that they take. There is also opportunities to strengthen their application through extracurricular activities and other engagements beyond the classroom. Next slide, please.
I'm sorry, could I just briefly jump in there? Could we go back
Okay.
one? There's just been quite a few questions in the Q&A. Could we go back one slide? Thank you very much. Sorry, just on the right-hand side, the factors in colleges attributed in different levels of importance. This is a survey of US universities, US institutions only. Yeah, just to be clear, this is not definitive for every university in every different country in every different system. It is a survey of US universities. There were a few questions about that in the Q&A. Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, so that brings it to me. Okay, hi there. So yeah, just looking at that, different places in the world, so different universities in different places in the world will be looking at systems in a different way. And now's not really the time, because this is literally a short introduction to give you a bit of a head start over kind of what we do and what we're here for, and kind of bringing forward a chance for you to have a general idea of what resources are available to you, and what we do as a team, and what the student needs to be doing themselves as well. Okay, so we also know that, well, you should be aware that we're not actually meeting the students until after January, and I'll get into a little bit more detail on that further. And when I say that, I mean on a one-to-one basis. However, this is a chance for us to generally speak to students in groups before that time. So as you saw with the slides with Mr. Wickham, the current grade 12s are deep in the middle of getting those transcripts and getting those letters of recommendation and their applications done right now. So really the idea is we want to just pull through some information in general to you sooner, rather than having to wait for us in January. So there's going to be lots of questions, and there's going to be quite a lot of details that we're not sharing at this moment, because there's a year and a half's worth of details that we could be sharing. But the idea for us today is to basically share with you kind of where to look for certain things, and to what to look out for in general, and also for you to kind of get to know who we are as well. Okay. And so with that, yes, the UK will look for predicted grades, for example. Yes, the US will look at demonstrated interest more than the UK. These are all nuances and details that we're not really in a position to start launching into too much at this stage. So just rest assured, I just want to kind of put the any anxiety that you may feel at this moment as to kind of all the things that you need to know and to learn about, and all those differences. Don't worry, we have that in hand, and we know what those are, and we will share with you in time as we go along when you need to know those things, just so you're prepared. We've all been through this process, and even though we've been here for the X number of years or Y number of years, we've also been doing college counselling for longer than the years that we've been at ACS for. So rest assured, we've got that in hand. While we're waiting for those individual one-to-one sessions, we are seeing students in assemblies, and I'll be giving you a bit more of a breakdown of that in a few slides later, as well as giving students tasks to do as well in their advisory sessions. But also, one of the great resources which we have developed is and can be used now at this stage is Schoology. So, I mean, I just want to drive your attention to Schoology. Now, students generally have been using the courses section to find out, you know, their tasks and what their homeworks and assignments are, as well as access content. And we have got a myriad of content, all organized into grade levels and the stage that you're at the university application exploration and application process of. Okay. But the most important thing for you to know is that it's not in courses, it's in groups. So think groups as anything to do with community, right? So anything that, like for example, the high school community has, rather than individual classes, okay, or general information in the school community. But also we're part of that wider school community, rather than having focused lessons with students. So as a result, we're in groups, okay? So you'll find all of our resources, as you can see on the slides in front of you, the slide in front of you, that we've got our own set of pages under groups, college counselling and careers. And this will basically be the landing page here that you will see on the left-hand side, okay? Or, yeah, on the left-hand side, you'll see under resources, so you'll be taken to updates. There are useful updates in there. But when you're looking to kind of start researching or have a little look at destination exploration, or what do I need to know right now at a beginning stage of grade 11? Well, you click on resources, and inside resources, we obviously have resources under 5 different categories. I just want to draw your attention to 2 of the main ones that you might find most helpful to you. So the first one is, obviously there's a welcome and an overview and so on, but the first one that you might find very useful is grade level resources. If you click on there, you will find, if you look at the top right of the screen, you will find a page that comes up with a bunch of resources. It starts off with all the things that are needed to be done throughout the whole year in grade 11. So it's a to-do list for the whole year. It's the sort of thing that you can refer to. What do I need to be doing or thinking about with my child? Well, check the to-do list. Look at all of the things that are up and coming throughout the year, okay, in terms of tasks to be done. Okay, some of those tasks are ongoing. So that's our to-do list. And then you scroll down and there's a range of different resources that helps you consider more about how to go about exploration. We have a separate session with you later on where we're going to be looking in more depth about self-reflection and looking in more depth about exploration. And then there's going to be another session later on where we talk about how to research universities. So you're going to find resources that help those tasks in the grade 11 specific page in Schoology. Okay, so that's that first one, grade level resources. You'll see there's grade 9, grade 10, grade 11, grade 12. If you haven't come across that yet, now's the time to start looking into that. It will help you, okay? And most of the time, if you've got a question, you'll find the answer in there, although we're also here, obviously, to help answer those questions, right? Next one to show you is next one down is the university process and resources pages. In there, you've got an exploration tab and a making applications tab. At this stage, grade 11, you don't make any applications. Grade 11 is about exploring ideas, exploring options. It's the fun grade, okay, where you get to work out what's out there and what do we want to do? What can we do? What should we not really do, considering our circumstances? So a great way to start that is looking at regional searches of universities. So like we've got Canada University Search folder, we've got European University Search folder, UK University Search folder, US, and so on. You get the idea. And it carries on with kind of other things and other general categories to look at for your researching. So basically between now and those one-to-one sessions, this will be a great time to engage in the Schoology pages, okay? Now, it's not just Schoology. We have lots of good resources to research from, but it's a great start on Schoology, okay? But students and families have access to a wide range of other resources. So we've got Schoology. It's a great way to start. But then we've also got library books, library books, right, in our offices. All right. We're a bit sad these days because we feel that students don't come in here as often as they used to and actually open the books up and have a look through some of the books. We've got tons of books. We've got lots of prospectuses on different universities, physical copies. We've got shelves full of that stuff. So it's a great place for grade 11s to occasionally come in and check out, some reading material that we have in here. We encourage them to sit down in the middle and read as long as they're focused in what they're doing. You'll find that our offices has a middle section, and our individual college counselors each have their own office surrounding it, okay? That brings us on to another resource, us as college counselors. You can ask us questions, okay? That's what we're here for, and this is what we do. But obviously, we want to currently focus a little bit more on the 12s because they're the ones that are currently trying to hit submit on early decision currently, which phrases we can explore and talk about later on as we go along, okay? University visits and fairs. As Mr. Wickham mentioned, we've had a myriad of different universities coming in and mini fairs, as well as individual visits as well. They are a great resource, getting information straight from the horse's mouth. How do we find out who's coming and when? Schoology will tell you, okay? We have updates to tell you who's coming and when. The school newsletter, right? The high school and the upper school newsletter. Every week, we're furiously writing in there to explain who's coming in and who you can ask questions to, okay? And it was great to see loads of grade 11s coming in to speak to lots of universities during the mini fairs, but it would be nice to see them coming in a little bit more when you're having individual universities and institutions coming in. Another place to find that information, we've actually got an Instagram account, which you can scan the QR code from right now. And in there, the best section in there is probably your link tree at the top. You click on that, and that will take you to the university's visits document. Okay, but you'll also find that document in other places as well. Okay, especially the emails. Don't forget, we're sending emails out to you every month as well, just to give you a flavor of the things that you need to be considering throughout that month. Every single month at every grade level, that's happening. Okay, we have Moresby. Students have been working on Moresby. It helps with students considering what career options are out there for them. Okay, so it's a good chance for students to think and research, not just only about universities, but let's think about what general career options that they might be interested in. Let's see what that entails. What is a daily life going to be like? You know, lots of detail is in there, including how to get into that career and what's required to study as well. So Moresby is great for careers. It's the resource to research for careers. Okay. We have open days, university tours that you can go to. We have information on that on the walls in the college counselling offices. There are taster days. These are things that you can engage in yourself, and we can give out more details in time when, as and when. But basically, or you could just ask us. But yeah, those are great resources, going straight to universities and checking out universities. But we will be focusing more on that more in the second half of the year, encouraging the grade 11s to do that a little bit more. Okay, Schoology we've got, but Schoology isn't the only electronic base of resources, but we've compiled a lot of resources for you that are specific, specialized for the needs of our students. However, there are tons of other things. BridgeU, which we'll go into more depth later. We'll have our own discrete session on BridgeU, which helps you research different universities. College Board have got a which is a US website that has lots of information on, and if you've studied SATs or done an SAT test or PSAT, you'll know that is in the College Board website, but you'll also find in the College Board website something called Big Future, which tells you more about specific universities and admissions criteria or average admission rates and so on. But then you've got Princeton Review, you've got niche.com, you've got College Vine, you've got Campus Reel, you've got UVisit. There's a slew of stuff. All right. And now's not the time to kind of like give you all of the links to those, but do spend some time in Schoology. You might find some of those links in there as well. Okay. And so moving on to Mr. Sabanda, where we're just going to briefly introduce the idea of researching universities and a great way to start doing that. More detail on BridgeU later on, but Mr. Sabanda.
Okay, our main platform that students use for researching universities is what we call BridgeU. So all of them are going to be getting added to BridgeU pretty soon. What they can find is that this is a platform where everything relating to college guidance in our office happens, from them letting us know which universities they're looking to apply to, which ones they are researching about, as well as which ones they've submitted applications to. From there, we're able to see what applications they've submitted, what their requirements are from our end to submit, whether that's transcripts, predicted grades, counselor letters, and teacher recommendations. So this is a platform that centralizes a lot of our work. But on the students' end, it really makes it so much simpler for students to find out about different universities. So what it will do is ask them some basic questions about what kind of universities they are looking for. So there is a variety of universities that you'll find in different countries, different sizes, and with different offerings, right? They'll also ask about the education. What subjects are they taking? What their grades are? And what are they looking to study in terms of the subjects of interest? And then also some personal preferences. Some students want to study in a big city. Some want to study in a small city. Some prefer rural schools. Some want a big research university, whilst others would want a small liberal arts college and so on. So all of those different nuances are sort of put together to create a rough profile of a student that goes on to suggest some universities that might be of interest for them based on those different peculiarities that they would have put in on that profile. And then from there, it sort of gives them a lot more information about what the university offers, right? So it could be based on the scores that they've recorded about where they are performing, it will tell them how good a fit this university is based on their preferences, right? But also, what are their chances of getting admitted? Generally, these are not always the most accurate. So they can then go on to research about the school, get a feel of what the university is like. And from there, they could go on to visit the university and come into our office and talk through. Most of us have visited various universities, either during our time at ACS or before. This past summer, I was visiting universities in Metro New York. Mr. Forrester was visiting universities in Florida, and Mr. Wickham was visiting universities in upstate New York. And there is an additional myriad of universities that come in to talk to us here at ACS. So there is a lot more knowledge that we can offer the students, but this is a great starting point for them to just get to know universities that may not always have been on their radar. And then from there, they can also go on to shortlist universities that they like, and of course, then decide to apply, something that then we go on through our one-on-one meetings when we start those. And then, of course, we also use the platform for sending off the documents, and as well as keeping track of what universities they've applied to and how those applications are going. What BridgeU also offers is historical data. So students can also get to see how many applications have been sent to a particular university by ACS students. How many ACS students have historically been accepted in those universities? And then also several requirements on if the school requires SATs, for example, what were the average grades of SATs that students were getting? What was the range of GPAs that students who are admitted had or did not get admitted? So all of that data can really help students get a very good feel of where they stand, what are their chances of getting into that university, but more importantly, what kind of university it is and what kind of environment are they going to find when they get there. So you can see here, there's some data on the size of the university, the setting, and of course, how international the university is. Some universities will have a large international population, while others might have a smaller international population. However, you may also find that a university that may not look particularly diverse will be in a community or in a city that is a lot more diverse. So students can always take advantage of what is offered beyond the classroom. I'm seeing a few questions there. So there's one that says that the grades automatically downloaded to BridgeU. So BridgeU, unfortunately, does not link directly to our Power School or our Power School. So the grades are not directly downloaded. We will actually upload the transcripts from their grade 11 as the initial transcripts, as well as the mid-year transcripts. Then when it comes to predicted grades, we plug those in through UCAS, which is the application platform for UK schools. When it comes to researching about university, students need to have a rough understanding of what they can expect in terms of the type of education on offer from different countries. As you can see, there's a bit of a spectrum that in the quality, not in the quality, but in the type of education offered. So the biggest differences will probably be between the UK and the USA. I know they have some of the best universities in the world, so people tend to conflate them together and think they are very similar, but you'll find that they are extremely different in the way that they review their applications, in the kind of preparation that they expect from the student, and the philosophy of the education that they offer. So for studying in the UK, you have mostly 3-year degrees. Of course, other courses like medicine and so on will be much longer, whereas in the USA, a general degree will be 4 years, right? In the UK, you generally apply directly to a specific subject and a specific course that has specific academic requirements. So they may state, you're applying for economics and mathematics at the London School of Economics. We are going to need you to have at least AP calculus, or you are going to need at least a 7 in higher level maths in IB, right? So those would be very specific entry requirements for a specific course that you apply directly to that. Whereas on the extreme end, when it comes to the USA, most universities generally will not specify specific requirements. They'll be looking at the more holistic view at the student based on their extracurricular activities, their academic experience, which we touched on my previous part of the presentation. So then when the student applies, they're also applying to the university. There is a little bit of emphasis on what they're going to study, but that's mostly looking at what subjects they've taken and how those have prepared them. But a student can go in thinking that they want to study business and then end up graduating with an engineering degree, right? So there is an opportunity for students to move within the university across different programs. When they come in, usually on the first year, they will be required to take general intro subjects, intro level courses that will be general for each type of subject or concentration or major, depending on the language used at the university. And then after the first year, they go into the second year where they're expected to start specializing a little bit in a particular major. Then either in the middle or towards the end of their second year, that's when they are required to declare that major. Some universities will still allow them to change majors later in the process after the sophomore year. Whereas with the UK, you are going directly into that particular subject and you are expected to study that subject and graduate in that subject. As you go, Asian countries will look a little bit more into the general profile of the student, but will likely be looking for the student to also apply directly for a particular course. Whereas when you look at Canada, Canada is nearly similar to the US, but what they do is that you're applying to a particular faculty. So if you apply to the Faculty of Humanities, you can get into the Faculty of Humanities and then go on to study history or English language or English literature, right? So there will be various opportunities and offers of different majors within that faculty that a student is allowed to take and specialized in. So generally, you find also the first year they will be taking general courses, and then they will be expected to go on and specialize. In Australia, which I just actually returned from after an invitation from Brisbane to Brisbane by Griffith University. So what they find is that even within a particular major, there will be various pathways that students can go on to pursue. So you find that a student studying business will come in together, do the first year of the same courses, but some will start specializing in the business of sports or law and business of entertainment, and international business, and so on, depending on their various interests. So all of these factors are things that students need to put into consideration based on their interests, based on how sure they are of the course that they want to study, and all these other factors of fit in terms of like, are they looking to explore other opportunities? Are they really sure that they want to do a particular course? And some courses may be better suited for some countries, as you find more specialized courses like accounting, law, medicine. You find that UK universities similar to the UK will have direct entry, where a student goes from high school and straight into that professional kind of degree. Whereas in the US and Canada, you are generally required to do an undergraduate degree before you can proceed to law school and to medical school. So in general, we basically look at this spectrum as, on one hand, UK is more specialized, whereas on the other end, the USA is more exploratory, and we're looking at the different characters and the different interests of the students to advise them on which options might be best for them. All right, next slide.
This is just me really briefly, a quick reminder, I touched on it earlier, that we always have lots of universities visiting. When we took this screenshot, this was obviously a week or two ago now. These universities have been and gone. We have a few more coming in later this week. So we've got a great practical, career-oriented business school coming in tomorrow called HULT, really kind of project-based learning, which is exciting for students who maybe are looking for a more practical, hands-on experience rather than an academic theoretical one. We have a couple of hospitality schools coming in over the next couple of weeks from Switzerland, which is really exciting. So there's lots of different opportunities, all usually visits every week, 2 or 3 visits every week from different universities. So we would encourage students and families to check Schoology. There is from that drop down menu of all calendars, make sure you've got the box checked for college counselling and careers. We put all of our visits on there. There is a live document as well hosted on our Schoology page, which all of the visits are on. So we will, well, I'll put that in the chat for you all right now, the university visits, so you can see what's coming up over the next few weeks. That's just a quick reminder that all grade 11 students are encouraged to come to those visits, come and chat with the university representatives, come and find out a little bit more about some of those nuances that Mr. Sibanda was discussing just then. I'll put that in the chat right now, the live document.
All right. When it comes to testing, some of you might be aware that the SAT has become optional for a lot of universities in the US. That is very true. A lot of universities will consider the SAT if submitted, but if not submitted, it will not be a factor in the student's application. There are some exceptions, though, where you will find you'll find that, like MIT, Georgetown, state universities in Florida, and so on, you will find that those might have more specific requirements on what testing they're going to be looking for. So these are some of the conversations that students need to have with us as college counselors. However, we also offer a PSAT, which unfortunately this year is on the 14th of October, which is the first day of our midterm break. So for myself, working with a lot of boarding students, there's still some considerations on how we can accommodate more students to take those. But all students needed to do was register. I think the registration has passed. But the PSAT is the intro to testing that all students can take through the school. And then from there, it can give them a breakdown of what their strengths are, what they can work on as they prepare for the SAT. Some students, particularly those that were were in schools that were not entirely taught in English, might need to take the TOEFL or the IELTS. Those are tests for English proficiency. By and large, our grade 11 and 12 students will be able to pass these tests quite easily. However, sometimes they are a requirement based on the specific requirements of each university. You also find that some universities like Oxford and Cambridge will have specific entry requirements or entry exams that students are supposed to take. The same applies to IE University in Spain and Bocconi University in Italy. So students need to be aware and prepare sufficiently for those courses. We, of course, are available to help students and direct them in any way that they need to help to prepare for these courses. And there is an SAT prep course that is going to be available for students that they can register and start taking this November 2023. And more information will be shared with the students or has already been shared with the students on how to register for that course. And the course will be offered right here on our campus. There's some tests that students can take on Moresby, which are more personality tests. So these really help students to figure out what careers might be best for them based on their interests, of course, based on certain ideas of aptitude from those personality tests. And Moresby can go on to help them to figure out what subjects they need to take, what kind of career pathways they can take to get there. As we know, our careers are not always in a straight line. Not everybody studies the same thing to reach a particular career. So students can get more examples of how different people have reached the epitome of certain careers. So Moresby is a great source for students to really explore and find out where and how they can go about thinking about their future careers there. The other alternative to the SAT is the ACT, which is generally a little different from the SAT in the sense of it offers a science option. So one of the sections for the SAT is a science section that students can take. So some students that may not be particularly strong on their English or their math might find it easier to take the ACT because of that slight difference. But universities will take both of them seriously if the students were to take them and they are submitted. All right, next slide. Thank you.
Okay, so this one's over to me. Upcoming events. Mr. Artist, if we can spotlight me. So, okay, so thank you. So basically, the one which is crossed out, that's what we've done already with the grade 11s. So with the grade 11s, we've had an assembly, we've given them a general overview and a quick introduction as to kind of what we're going to be doing throughout the year, okay? We're currently doing that same introduction, but in more depth with you right now, the highlighted student and parent webinar, all right? Very soon, within a few days, really, we're going to be sending out a video link to you where we're going to go in more depth over how to explore and how to go about that very important self-reflection piece. You've heard from us tonight that it's very important to reflect on who you are as a person and as a learner and what you want out of the situation in order to find a university that fits best the students, right? So, and then from that, using that as a point to then start exploring what's available, bearing in mind those preferences and those abilities academically and personally that you have. So that's what that's going to be about on the 11th of October. It's not going to be in a webinar format. It's going to go straight to your emails, just like it's one of those grade 11 communication emails that we send out every month. We're going to be sending out one from the Cobham College Counselling email. Now that's a no reply email address where we're going to be sending out that video link. It's going to be a YouTube clip. We often have parents worried about what time is this event going to be on when we send out these video links. So just so you know, moving forward, when you see a video link or a video presentation that's coming out to you, that's basically due by the end of the day. So there's no need to worry about whether or not you need to come into school in time. Do we do it straight after school? No. If it's one of those, then we'll say it's a webinar or a presentation in person. So the video links will be being sent out to you just so you can see it in your own time when you're most free and available, unlike you can with one of these webinars. So that's the idea behind that one. And also we can see how many of you are actually engaging, because YouTube has got some great analytics that we can see on the other side, okay? It helps inform us of our practice, okay? So we know what we're doing well and what we need to do to improve getting messages out to you guys a little bit more. So that's what we're doing with that video. On the final day of term, this half term, we're going to be having a very important assembly with the grade 11s. It's when the students are actually in. So I'm showing you all the tasks that we're doing with you as families and with students in groups before we start those one-to-one sessions, okay? So grade 11 student document presentation. Some of you, in fact, half of you would have now received 2 documents, the students that is, and parents would have received 1 document so far in a file share through Google Docs. Okay, that's what this is about. This is our chance to explain that a little bit better. But before we send the students away to do a task on those, they need to understand, well, we need to first of all get those shared documents out to them. So I have to painstakingly send out individually to each and one of you those documents. So then you've all got those individual documents on extracurricular activities. And you've also, the students will be sent self-reflection questionnaire, okay? So those are out with half of you. The other half, I've got until the 13th of October to get those out to you. The idea is we're going to explain what to do in those tasks during that session, in those documents. Then students go away for the second well, for the holidays, basically, they'll have a chance then in the holidays to start using those documents and knowing what to do in those, or when they come back from holiday, start working on those. Leading up, and we're giving them a time between the end of the October break up to the Christmas holidays to spend time doing that self-reflection form and sheet, as well as explaining what extracurricular activities they've done and reflect on what they've learned in those extracurricular activities. But more information on that to follow, okay? So that's what the 13th of October is about. So I know it's on the last day of term, but we'd really appreciate it if those grade 11s would come in on the last day of term so we can share that and explain what those documents are about. Then the break happens on the 14th. As you know, it's a 2-week holiday, which is fantastic. And then when we come back on the 10th of November, we will then start setting up students on Bridge U. So we're going to explain Bridge U in a little bit more detail to the students in an assembly. Then we're going to have the person from Bridge U coming in to explain the platform and give a good overview. Then students are going to be set away on task in the advisory straight after that, and they're going to be getting on with the tasks and filling out their profiles and starting to see what universities there could be of best fit for them. Okay. Then in November, date to be confirmed, we're going to have another presentation in more depth on how to find fit and how to do the university search. It's a grade 11 kind of like, how would you find the fit? What things would you look for when searching for universities? Then when we come back from the December break, we will have a more specific how to research within Bridge U, within the track. There's going to be another document called a tracker, how to use that. So more focus on research. And that again will be a video link being sent out on the 23rd of January. And there've been quite a few questions about when our college counselor is going to be assigned. We're aiming for mid-December, simply so that we can focus on getting those applications completed with the grade 12s, of which we're working on right now, okay? So that's when we'll start assigning college counselors. If you've received an email from me already, me personally, with the document sharing, it doesn't mean that I am your college counselor. It just means that I'm sharing the documents with you as a family, and I've left a little explanation. NB, we will be divvying these out later on or assigning later on, okay? So we've got a range of other upcoming events, November, December, January. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this because you do and I'm not going to read each of them out because you do have this information coming to you quite regularly in those weekly newsletters, okay? But just to know ahead of schedule that there is this big plan that we're working towards. Incidentally, you'll find in the newsletter, just going back that slide, you'd have seen 3rd of November for the Bridge U setup, but we're just moving that around, okay? Just to highlight that to you. And once again, a QR code for our Instagram account is there. Now, here is the big message. Grade 11 is about reflection, but it's also about getting involved, okay? So what does that mean, getting involved? Now's the time to be focusing on your interests in your extracurricular activities. So grade 9 and 10 is a great time to just try a bunch of different extracurricular activities, whereas universities will generally be expecting students to find at least 1 or 2 areas outside of the classroom that they're a little bit more kind of dedicated and focused and interested in. So getting involved means getting involved in extracurricular activities, finding your niches, trying to work on that. Universities do know that there are some students that are still more generalists and specialists. That's okay, but do work on the idea of being involved. And also that means be involved in the community. That means be involved in visits. It means be involved in the process of searching for a university of best fit. So that means engaging with college counselors, listening to advice, watching these presentations, seeing those universities that are coming in, get involved and take ownership over the process that you heard Mr. Wickham talking about before. It's really key that you're getting involved and taking ownership. But at this stage, we're on exploration, moving into then finding out what it is specifically you want from the university experience. Okay, over to Mr. Wickham.
Just to leave you all on, really, we do an exit survey to grade 12 students, and this is something that kind of we ask, what would you tell a grade 11 about this whole process? And there are some of the quotes that we have taken from that kind of exit survey. I think there's some definite lessons here for grade 11 students to consider, certainly around sort of trusting yourself, trusting, having an open mind, think about what you actually want, getting organized, being proactive and not procrastinating, those kind of messages that we're sharing. I promise you these are actual student quotes. I haven't doctored with them. The message does occasionally sink in with our seniors once they've been through the process. So just as a snapshot of some of the things that our seniors wish. And if you've had young people go through this process already, you'll know exactly kind of what some of the things that get on top of them and what that experience is like as they move into grade 12. So yes, I think we're going to leave it there. Is that right, Mr. Forrester?
Yeah, sure. Just to kind of just reiterate this one slide really quickly. We are with the grade 12s at that red bit, but we're also trying to move forward the stuff on the left-hand side forward with you as well. So do be patient with us, because normally we'd be generally focusing most on what you see on the right with the grade 12s, okay? But we're also trying to make sure we're doing the best provision that we can for you currently to start the process off earlier than usual with you as well, okay? So just to have a general idea of what's going on there. And then the next slide is our contact details. So we do have a fourth college counsellor that will be arriving, but more on that later on. But currently, these are our email addresses. Feel free to contact us, okay? See, that's me in the middle, Mr. Wickham on your right, and Mr. Sabanda on the left. And that's all for now, really. I appreciate you being with us for so long tonight, and I appreciate you listening to us and getting to the end. So well done. And we look forward to getting some feedback as well from you as well. And thank you all for your time. I'm sorry we haven't had a chance to go through all of the Q&As, but let's just see what we have. Oh, we just got lots of thanks. Okay, thank you, with lots of answered questions. Okay, so yeah, do get in touch if there's something more that you wish to know, but we don't really want to go into too much detail to talk about all of the nuances and the differences. We do have more sessions that fulfill that need as we move forward in the next sessions, okay? Okay, so that's it from us, and thank you very much, and have a good evening.